Hi, my name is Samantha and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be repurposing some pants into bag dispensers. Let's get into it. I'll have the haul linked down below. I was gifted a bunch of different fabric, and this fabric was actually a pair of pants. So you can tell from the cuts here that it was a pair of pants, a child's pair of pants, and so it also has the elastic. So I decided that I was going to salvage the material and then make 2 bag dispensers out of it. So my plan is to use the material that I already have and hopefully not really add anything new. Like I said, I have the elastic right here, and I do have ribbon here to make the holder, like the loop for it. And I also don't really want to cut a lot off. I'm hoping to keep as much of the fabric as possible. So there's no like real measurements for this. I'm just making it as big as I can. You could see here that like the pant, I don't know what you call this part, but like where the pants is not a rectangle, this part is going to be extra. I could use this to make the loop, but that's extra work. I don't know if I want to do that or not. I would rather just use a ribbon, but I don't know. That is not my plan. My plan is to just use the ribbon because it's much easier and I want to knock this project out. So let's get started. Step 1 in this project, I've already, serged and washed and dried this fabric as well as ironed it. What I'm going to do is I'm matching up the 2 pieces that match each other, and I am going to sew along the more straight edge. And so we'll wind up with 2 large rectangles. So that is the first step. The first step, I'm putting them right sides together and then sewing with black thread along the straighter edge. All right, we have 2 panels. So what I've done is I stitched the straight piece together, and then I also did like a top stitch, under stitch, whatever you want to call it, to keep this piece flat. The big reason why I did that, towards the middle it doesn't really matter, but more when making the casings at the top and the bottom that's going to hold the elastic. It's really frustrating when you have this like flappy piece of seam in the middle when you're trying to thread something through. So by stitching it down, 1, it'll just make it function easier that there's no extra like flappy fabric, and 2, it'll make it easier to thread the casing. So what I'm going to do now is make the rows at the top and the bottom. Now for the elastic, where did my elastic go? This is what was in the pants. So let's see what we're working with here. We really only need elastic in the bottom. We don't need it at the top. I would like it at the top, but to hold the bags in and allow it to dispense, it has to be at the bottom. So if we use just half, that gives us however much elastic this is. If we cut it in 4s, it's this much. So this is our fabric here, and you pretty much need 1/3 of your fabric is your elastic. So in the fashion of not measuring anything, we're gonna fold in 1/3, and this is in 4s. I think we're solid. So I'm gonna cut this into 4, and there's no going back. So what I'm gonna then do is create the casing. I'm gonna fold it over twice, so fold it over. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fold it over 1 time, stitch it down, and then fold it over again, and then stitch it down, because like I said, then there won't be a flappy piece of material. And then we will be able to put the elastic in. Also, here's my exact science for how I'm gonna cut this. So I have the fabric folded over. I'm gonna fold it over again. So this fabric here is our rectangle, so I'm just gonna chop this part off. Here is the fabric that I chopped off. So it's really not that much because it really doesn't matter if it's a perfect rectangle. Once this is sewn into a tube, it's just to hold garbage bag, or not garbage bag, like grocery store bags. So it's really not that big of a deal. Also, this is not meant to be like a tutorial. I do have a tutorial, I have it linked down below. Please excuse the noises outside. The guys have been mowing my neighborhood all day. My only objective here was to make sure that the casing is big enough to hold the elastic. So that is what I did here. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch these channels down so we can thread the elastic. And for the ribbon, I ended up going with 12 inches because I'd rather have too much than not enough. Something I mentioned but forgot to show is tacking down the inner lip of fabric. So as you can see, this fabric is not straight because I'm not working with straight pieces, I'm working with scraps. So when this fabric is folded over, if I didn't stitch it down, then it would just be loose and floppy like this. So then when it's folded over again, when I go to thread the elastic through here, I'm working with all these different pieces of fabric that are getting in the way. So what I did is I increased my stitch length to a 5.0 because it's not meant to be a super holding stitch. It's just to keep it out of the way. And I stitched down the line. You could tell it's not straight, doesn't matter. It's not gonna be seen. It's gonna go on the inside. So what we're gonna do is flip this down and stitch this bottom piece right here down with a tighter seam, and this is going to make our casing, and now this is functioning as one piece. So that was my idea there. We're almost done. What I've done is I've stitched down the 2 channels, and I also stitched down the side of the tube, starting at the top channel and ending at the bottom channel. So these are still open. We can go ahead and thread the elastic through. I also included the ribbon at the top here. So now what I want to do is slide the elastic through both sides and stitch it down together. They're coming along really nicely, but I did make a mistake. Not a big deal, just like an aesthetic thing that could look better. So I finished the top, and I realized I didn't think of a way to like close the opening where the elastics touch, which could have been easily solved by, before I sewed this part down, just sewing this center seam up higher. So for the bottom part, I did seam rip it and I sewed just a little bit. Someone had asked me in another video, like, do you ever learn from projects? Absolutely. I make mistakes in every single project. Doesn't matter if I've done the project a million times or if it's my first time doing it. I learn from projects every single time and I make mistakes every single time. So this is just an example. It's an aesthetic thing. It'll just look a little nicer by making this change, but by no means does it change the functionality, and it would have functioned just fine. And I still have the other one to work on. So for the other one, what I'm going to do is, actually, I haven't sewn it down. So for the other one, I am going to do, I'm going to sew it into a tube first, and then I'm going to sew the loop around. Now, how I'm able to do that is I did have to take the little tray thing, I don't know the right term for it, off of my sewing machine so that it could go over just the arm. Moment of truth. Let's turn this sucker inside out. Is it a functioning bag? So using the thick elastic is definitely not something I would recommend for this project, but I was just using what I already had, and that was the elastic in the pants. I would definitely recommend thinner elastic. That being said, this is one of my first projects using thick elastic, and it was really easy to sew together because you have so much material you're sewing on. So that was really nice. All right, let's flip it around. Okay, it is definitely tighter than necessary, but that is also better than the bags falling out. And I do love how long this is. Let me measure this for you. This is about 25 inches long. So if you wanted to make this, you'd probably need 26, 28 inches of fabric. And the loop is a nice length. 12 inches is definitely nice because you might have a hook, you might have a door handle that's like a lever, you might have a door handle that's a knob. I don't know where this will be hung, but it's nice to have options. Like I said, I wouldn't do the elastic this tight next time. I would probably do half the length elastic because it doesn't necessarily need to be this tight, but whatever. I'd rather have it tighter than looser, so now the bags are not going to fall out the bottom. But let me whip up the other one. Almost done with the second one, but I want to share with you all the mistakes I made. So first, I forgot to put the ribbon in, so I had to seam rip, but only seam ripped like a little hole just to stick it in, and then I sewed it back up, and then I realized I only put in half the string, so then I had to seam rip it again, stick the other half of the string. I also decided that I am only going to put elastic on the bottom and not on the top. However, I did still make the top have a casing, so it give it more structure at the top, as well as if there ever was a desire to have an elastic later, you just seam rip a little bit, add elastic, and sew it shut. So that is what I did. But the elastic, I already cut it. So what did I do? I just went ahead and stitched it like across, and now we have a bigger piece of elastic, which I am going to put through the bottom. And I can already tell you I like this so much better, sewing down both sides, making a tube, and then putting the casing or the elastic in. So let me put the elastic in and then we'll flip it right side out. While we are birthing this project, I would like to talk about my last video where we made some jar openers from receipt paper. They are still up for grabs. We've got 4 of them. If you want to know all the rules, go ahead and check out my video from Tuesday. And don't forget, you have to comment on the Instagram post, not on the YouTube video. If you'd like to comment on the YouTube video, please do so. But the submission is posting a comment on the Instagram page. Okay, so let's see what this guy looks like. All right, I definitely prefer the no elastic at the top. Honestly, it'd be nice to have something like stiff in here. Maybe some, what do the people use in the boning? Zip ties. People use zip ties in boning. So maybe like a zip tie, that's like a cheap alternative to buying a specific sewing product. It's a bit loose down here on the bottom. I would prefer it a little bit tighter. However, I do think once you get some grocery bags in here, I don't think that they're going to fall out. And I love that the only added material was 12 inches of ribbon and some thread. And there we go, 2 functioning grocery bag holders. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of these Remnants to Radiance projects. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.